apply a property of real numbers to each example. So here we have 3 times 2x. We're going to use something called the associative property here. And what the associative property says, we're multiplying 3 numbers, a times bc. And this is all multiplication. Then you don't have to do the bc part first. You get the same thing if you do the ab part first, and then do the c, as long as it's all multiplication. So let's see how this would help us here. Now, if you've had algebra before, you might say 3 times 2x is 6x, but you might not have known why. And the reason why is because of the associative property. 3 times 2x can actually be done by doing the 3 times the 2 first. And of course, even if you've never had algebra before, you can see that doing that first helps us, because 3 times 2, that's just ordinary math, that's 6x. Part B is another example just of that. Negative 7 times negative 4y. Well, that can be done by just taking the negative 7 and the negative 4. Negative 7 times negative 4 first gives you negative times negative is positive. 7 times 4 is 28, and don't forget your y. So in the future, we're going to not really make a formal reference of the associative property, but it's nice to know where the, what we're doing and the rules actually come from. So what we'll do is say 3 times 2x, just multiply the 3 and the 2, and get 6, keep the x. Negative 7 times negative 4 is 28, and we keep the y. Part C, that uses the associative property in another one called the commutative property. The commutative property is a shorter one. It says when you multiply a and b, just 2 things, you get the same thing if you go the other way around, b times a. So if you do the b first then a, same answer. So 5 times 6 is 6 times 5. It's the same thing. They're both 30, for example. Here this helps us because you can take, say, 11x times 4, and we'll have a little bit of fun with this. You can, say, swap around the 11 and the x. You could put x times 11 by 4, and that would be an example of the commutative property. And by the associative property, then you could do the 11 and the 4 first. And that would give you something funny like x times 44. Now, in algebra, we never really write x times 44. I'm just doing this formally using some of the properties. The way that we would write this is 44x, and that's probably, if you've ever seen algebra before, what you'd be more comfortable with. And the reason why these are the same is another example of the commutative property. Now again, don't be thrown off by these too much. We're just going to need to know how to do things, but they are justified with these 2 properties. So 3 times 2x, 6x. Negative 7 times negative 4, 28y. 11x times 4, I'd actually skip all of this and just say, okay, 11 times 4, its multiplication is going to be 44, and we're going to keep the x. And we're allowed to do that. The justification comes from these 2.